People ask me all the time how I built my fortune. They want the secret, the trick, the strategy that turned a kid tinkering with computers in Seattle into one of the richest people in the world. And they are always disappointed because there is no secret, no trick, no hidden formula that only the wealthy know. The truth about building wealth is brutally simple, but brutally difficult. Everyone wants to sell you a shortcut. They want you to believe wealth is mysterious, complicated, accessible only to the privileged or the lucky. But that is a lie. Today I am going to tell you the brutal truth about money, the truth most people do not want to hear, because it means they cannot make excuses anymore. It means they have to take responsibility and do hard things. Let me take you back to my early days. I was born on the 28th of October, 1955 in Seattle, Washington, to a solid middle-class family. My dad, William H. Gates Sr., was a prominent lawyer, and my mom, Mary Maxwell Gates, was a school teacher who later became deeply involved in community and civic organizations. We were not poor, but we were not extravagant either. My parents taught me the value of hard work and education. I had an older sister, Christy, and a younger sister, Libby. And we grew up in a home where intellectual curiosity was encouraged. At Lakeside School, private preparatory school in Seattle, my life really started to take shape. That is where I met Paul Allen, who was 2 years older than me, and we bonded over our shared fascination with computers. In the late 1960 seconds, computers were rare and expensive, room-sized machines that cost a fortune. But Lakeside had a teletype terminal connected to a General Electric mainframe, thanks to a fundraiser by the Mothers Club. For a kid like me, it felt like striking gold. At 13, I wrote my first software program, a tic-tac-toe game that let users play against the computer. While other kids were out playing baseball or hanging out, I was logging hours in the computer room, debugging code, and dreaming about what technology could become. I did not realize it then, but those early choices, learning and experimentation over typical teenage fun, became the building blocks of my future wealth. By high school, Paul and I formed the Lakeside Programmers Group, and we even got paid gigs like optimizing the school's scheduling system. When I was 16, we started a small company called Trafo Data using an Intel 8008 processor to analyze traffic data from roadway counters. It was not a massive success. We made about $20,000, but it taught me the basics of running a business, dealing with clients, and turning ideas into revenue. It meant late nights with punch cards and hardware glitches, but it sharpened my skills and showed me technology could solve real-world problems. After high school, I went to Harvard in 1973, thinking I might follow my dad and become a lawyer. But Harvard had incredible computer resources, and I spent more time in the Aiken Computation Lab than in my classes. Paul had dropped out of Washington State University and moved to Boston to work at Honeywell, and we kept talking about the microprocessor revolution. We saw articles about the Altair 8800, the world's first commercially viable personal computer in popular electronics. That was our cue. I dropped out of Harvard in my junior year in 1975 to start Microsoft with Paul in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where the Altair was being made. My parents were supportive but worried dropping out of one of the best universities in the world was not the safe path. But I knew the opportunity was too big. We started in a tiny office, bootstrapping with no outside funding, just our skills and determination. Now here is brutal truth number one, and it is going to sting. You are not poor because the system is rigged. You are poor because you make poor decisions with money. Before you get angry, yes, some people face more obstacles than others. Yes, Some people start with advantages like I did with a good education and early computer access at Lakeside. Yes, systemic issues exist. I am not denying that. But within your circumstances, you are making choices. And most people make bad ones. They spend instead of save. They consume instead of invest. They choose immediate gratification over delayed gratification. Those choices keep them poor. I started with nothing in terms of my own business capital. My family was middle class, and my parents lived through tough economic times, which taught frugality. I made different choices than most people around me. Instead of spending my allowance on candy, toys, or gadgets, I saved it and invested in books about programming and business. Instead of blowing earnings from odd jobs, I poured them into learning about computers and software. When Paul and I started Microsoft, we did not have venture capital. We had sweat equity. We licensed our basic interpreter to MITS, the company behind the Altair, and that first deal brought in $180,000 in the first year. We reinvested every penny back into the company. Other kids thought I was weird. Harvard classmates thought I was crazy for chasing the microcomputer dream. Friends wondered why I was not out partying. But choices repeated consistently over decades build enormous wealth, from Albuquerque in 1975 to relocating back to Seattle in 1979 to be closer to home and talent. The decisions were about building value, not spending frivolously. We hired early employees like my high school friend Steve Ballmer in 1980 and pushed forward. People do not want to hear this because it means their poverty is partly their responsibility. If you are making $50,000 a year and spending $50,000 a year, that is a choice. Financing new cars and taking expensive vacations you cannot afford is a choice. Investing nothing is a choice. Choices have consequences. Bad choices lead to poverty. Good choices lead to wealth. It is simple, not easy. If I had chosen the safe path, finishing Harvard and getting a corporate job, I might be comfortable, but not where I am. Instead, I took the risk and focused on creating value. As I once said, success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. Early on, I learned from small failures, like Trafo Data not taking off the way we hoped, and it taught me to make better choices. Truth one is responsibility. Stop making excuses. Start making better choices and heed the lessons of failure. Truth number two is that building wealth requires sacrifice most people are not willing to make. Sacrifice means living below your means when you could live at your means, driving an old car when you could finance a new one, staying home when friends go out, saying no to things you want because you are prioritizing things you need. Most people want wealth and want to enjoy the money now. They want both. And you cannot have both when you are starting from nothing. When I was young, I lived in a tiny apartment in Albuquerque, sharing space with Paul and our early teen. I wore cheap clothes, jeans, and t-shirts. I did not go on vacations. For the first decade of Microsoft, I did not take weekends off. Paul and I worked insane hours, sometimes 16-hour days, 7 days a week. We would sleep under our desks when we were too exhausted to drive home. People said I was missing out, but I understood I was sacrificing 5 years of comfort for 50 years of freedom. Look at the IBM deal in 1980. We were approached to provide an operating system for their new personal computer. We did not have one ready, so we bought 86 DOS from Seattle Computer Products for $75,000 and adapted it into MS-DOS. The key move was insisting on a licensing agreement instead of selling the software outright so we could license MS-DOS to other manufacturers as the PC market boomed. That was a short-term sacrifice for long-term dominance. Sacrifice is temporary. If you refuse to sacrifice, you can end up with permanent struggle. In those early days, we kept pushing through failures and setbacks, and the sacrifices paid off when we went public in 1986, making me a billionaire at 31. Even then, I kept sacrificing time for Think Weeks, twice-a-year retreats to isolate, read papers, and think about the future. Truth number 3 is this: getting rich slowly is the only reliable way to get rich. Everyone else is either lucky or lying, or leaving out context like having money or connections. Real wealth is built slowly through consistent saving and investing over decades, with compound interest doing its work. I have been investing for over 50 years, starting from when I was 13, writing that first program, and most wealth shows up later because compounding needs time. Microsoft did not become a giant overnight. From 1,975 to the IPO in 1986, we grinded and improved products constantly. By 1981, MS-DOS was on 70% of PCs, but that came after years of iteration. Windows 1 launched in 1985, but Windows 3 inches, 1,990, really took off. The first 10 years can feel like nothing is happening. The next 10 years, you see progress. Then it accelerates. Most people quit after 5 years and chase something faster, starting over again and again. If you are not willing to wait 20, 30, 40 years, you are not going to build wealth, because that is how long it takes. We faced antitrust lawsuits in the 1,990 seconds and competitors like Netscape, but I stayed patient and focused on innovation like Office and Internet Explorer. Truth 3 is patience. Stop chasing shortcuts. Truth number 4 is that nobody is coming to save you. Not the government, not your employer, not your family. People fantasize that Social Security will be enough, that a pension will support them, that someone will figure it out. Social Security replaces maybe 40% of your income if you are lucky. Most companies do not offer pensions anymore. Your kids have their own struggles. You have to save yourself. From the moment I left Harvard, I was building Microsoft brick by brick. My parents supported me emotionally and helped recruit early employees through connections, but financially it was up to me and Paul. If you do not save for retirement, you will not have one. If you do not invest, you will not build wealth. Stop waiting, start today. I stepped down as CEO in 2000 to focus on philanthropy because I had built enough security to pivot. Truth number 5 is that most of what you think you need, you do not actually need. You think you need a new car. No, you need transportation. That can be a 15-year-old used car. You think you need a nice apartment in a good neighborhood. No, you need shelter, which can be modest. You think you need to eat out regularly. No, you need food, which can be groceries you cook at home. Most spending is wants disguised as needs, and that is why people do not build wealth. I lived modestly for years, even as Microsoft grew. I drove a simple Porsche 911 for a long time, but nothing extravagant early on, and I focused on the work. When I built my house, Xanadu 2, in Medina, Washington, in 1995, it was after 2 decades of success, and it was designed with technology in mind, not just showing off. I met needs cheaply and invested the difference in the company, and later through Cascade Investment. I save like a pessimist, but invest like an optimist. As I have said, money has no utility to me beyond a certain point. Cut what you do not need and invest the savings. Truth number 6 is that your friends and family are probably giving you terrible financial advice, and following it will keep you poor. People get advice from parents who might be broke, friends in debt, coworkers living paycheck to paycheck, relatives with no wealth to show. They may love you, but they do not know what they are talking about. People told me to loosen up, buy nicer things, enjoy money while young. Some doubted our software-only model and suggested hardware. If I had listened, I would not be where I am. I followed my own analysis. I read books on business and biographies of innovators like Henry Ford and Andrew Carnegie. My mom was on the board of United Way and introduced me to executives, but I still vetted advice critically. If you want to be wealthy, do not take money advice from poor thinking and poor results. Learn from proven winners. Truth number 7 is that luck matters, but not the way people think. Luck does not make you rich. Preparation, meeting opportunity makes you rich. I've had lucky breaks. I was born in America in a time of economic growth. I was born male when opportunities were skewed that way. I got rare access to computers at Lakeside in 1968. But when opportunities showed up, I was prepared. By high school, I had logged 10,000 hours coding. When we saw the Altair 8800, we simulated its environment on Harvard's PDP-10 to develop BASIC before we even had the hardware. When the IBM PC deal came in 1980, we recognized it and negotiated licensing so we could sell MS-DOS to other manufacturers, including clones like Compaq. Luck gives opportunities. Preparation lets you seize them. You cannot control luck, but you can control preparation. Save capital, learn investing, develop skills, and build skills that never go out of style, like coding back then or AI and climate tech today, which I am investing in through Breakthrough Energy. Truth number 8 is that the earlier you start, the easier it is. And if you have not started, you have made it harder. This is math. Start investing at 25, and you might need to save about 10% of income to retire wealthy. Start at 35, and it might be 20%. Start at 45, and it might be 40%. Every year you wait, you lose compounding. I started building skills at 13. By 19, I was running Trafo Data. And at 20, starting Microsoft. If you are older, you cannot get time back, but you can start now and be more disciplined. Late is better than never. Truth number 9 is that investing is simple, but simple is not easy. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference in index funds, or save like a pessimist but invest like an optimist in things that create long-term value, hold for decades. That is the strategy. People fail because execution requires discipline, consistency, patience, and the ability to ignore fear and greed. At Microsoft, it was disciplined execution over years, iterating from MS-DOS to Windows 95, which sold 1 million copies in 4 days. Simple does not mean effortless. Truth number 10 is that money will not make you happy, but poverty will make you miserable. Money solves money problems, not life problems. It removes certain stress and gives freedom and options, but happiness comes from relationships, purpose, health, and growth. You can be rich and miserable, you can be poor and happy, but being stressed about bills, lacking options, being trapped in jobs you hate, that misery is real. Build wealth not to buy happiness, but to avoid the misery of poverty and reach security. Then focus on what actually creates happiness. For me, that led to philanthropy. Through the Gates Foundation, co-chaired with my ex-wife Melinda, we have invested billions in global health, education, and poverty reduction. I have pledged to give away virtually all my wealth over the next 20 years. As I said, I'd love to be beat in all of this foundation work. Somebody should try and pay more taxes than I did, and save more lives than I did, and give away more money than I did. So there you have it, the 10 brutal truths about money. 1, you are poor because of your choices, not because the system is rigged. 2, building wealth requires sacrifice most people will not make. 3, getting rich slowly is the only reliable path. 4, nobody is coming to save you. You must save yourself. 5, most of what you think you need, you do not need. 6, your friends and family may be giving you terrible advice. 7, luck matters, but preparation matters more. 8, the earlier you start, the easier it is. 9, investing is simple but not easy. 10, money will not make you happy, but poverty will make you miserable. These truths are brutal because they put responsibility on you. They do not give you excuses. They say your choices determine your outcome. You can reject them and go back to comfortable excuses, or you can accept them and start making hard choices, sacrifices, and long-term decisions. Most people will choose excuses and stay stuck. Some of you will choose responsibility, sacrifice, comfort for security, invest instead of spend, and be patient. And 20, 30, 40 years from now, you will be wealthy because you acted consistently. I built my fortune from nothing by accepting these truths when I was young. Starting today, you can do the same. The question is, will you? Will you accept that your financial future is in your hands? Or will you keep making excuses and waiting for someone to save you? Choosing to do nothing is still a choice, and it has consequences. 20 years from now, you will either be financially secure or still struggling, and that outcome will be determined by the choices you make starting today. Thank you for watching. Now go make better choices with your money. Start saving, investing, and building skills today. Take responsibility. Good luck. You are going to need discipline, and that is something only you can provide.